You know when they say, you know you're going to be in the hot seat? You just feel it. So anyway, I'm up here. I've done my 30 days on the disc, plus quite some more. And it's been a truly incredible experience. Just the way anyway, feels really good.
Can you agree with this? We'll be really brief here. So if step one is sift through contrast, know what I don't want, know what I do want. And step two is source lines up all what I do want and holds it in a strong vibration that I could find if I would get in the vicinity of it. And step three is I found a way to get in the vicinity of it, so what I ask for is now flowing into my experience. So I'm living in a resonance of well-being. So I'm chronically happy, I'm chronically eager, yes. I'm chronically appreciative, I'm chronically frisky. I just feel really good, but I have not withdrawn from life. So I'm out in the real world feeling like that. And now contrast is still surrounding me, but I'm approaching it from an aligned state of point of view. So contrast doesn't sting, it interests. A problem doesn't feel like a problem that defeats me, it feels like an opportunity for expansion.
Yes.
That's what step four is. It's consistently feeling good but still exploring contrast. Ooh. And then, as our friend said earlier, having a whole different take on the contrast, a whole different response to the contrast. So instead of problem, it feels like options, or it feels like opportunity. Absolutely. Instead of an unanswered question, it feels like something interesting to focus upon until the momentum carries me into a new place.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. That feels really good.
Esther went to a Spurs game the other night. Spurs, San Antonio Spurs, basketball. And she just discovered that she likes that last season. But she didn't discover it until the competition was really exaggerated and they were in the playoffs and the finals. And the stakes were very high. And the people that she went with, family, have been Spurs fans for a long time. And Esther's just tiptoeing into the idea of it. And they got really good premium seats, sort of right down in front, behind the Spurs bench. So Esther could feel the importance, sort of like the risk, sort of like the tension of the game. And she wanted to like it, but it was tense. And the games were close, and when they won, the crowd was happy, but when they didn't win, the crowd was not happy. And when they were winning, the crowd was happier, and when they were losing, the crowd was less happy. And Esther was sort of interested in feeling this very pointed energy around this sport. She's interested in everything about life these days, the vibrational dynamics of them. So now that came and went, and the Spurs did really well. They won the Western Championship and then did not win the final. And so now it's the beginning of the new season, but it was the preliminary game. This is very high-minded metaphysical conversation, so listen up. And so this was what they were calling the scrimmage game, a game that didn't count toward anything, but it was the first game of the season. And so Esther and her delightful family went. And Esther noticed that they played a Russian team. And the Russian team was good, but the main string, as they called it, was not playing for San Antonio. And so it was neck and neck and neck and neck and neck and neck. But the thing that Esther noticed most about it was because it didn't really matter, because there was really no risk, because there was no placement that was being decided as a result of it, the audience felt different to her. So Esther totally enjoyed this experience, even though it was a very close game. It went into overtime. It was amazing. People were on their feet, but the angst was not there. And so Esther came away from that experience all ready to explain to anyone who would listen. There weren't that many. You are a captive audience here. That she had discovered that when the stakes don't matter, when it just doesn't matter, it just feels better. That was the conclusion she came to, and we said, as she was chewing over it with us, no, Esther, it's just the first time you've seen a Spurs game from the high-flying disc. It wasn't the risk, it wasn't the audience, it wasn't anybody else. It was where you were in relationship to it all. Mm-hmm. She was just certain that all these other dynamics were the reason. It had nothing to do with any other dynamic, other than she was in a different vibrational place watching this game than she's ever been before.
I love it.
We were explaining to a pilot the other day an analogy that was very understandable to him, that as he's flying his big airplane, he can be at 20,000 feet or 30,000 feet or maybe even 40,000 feet, and it's the same aircraft doing essentially the same thing, just a different altitude. And so you're moving around, same person, thinking thoughts, having essentially the same experience as you move through life in some ways, but the vibrational altitude is making all of the difference. In other words, you are the same person, but you can be at different vibrational frequencies, and the experience that you have is magnificently improved the higher your frequency. Yeah, and the greater momentum you have.
It's beautiful.
So now what?